A memorable studio moment. Oh, that is a good question. There were so many of them, man. Like I just grew so much as an artist during that process. And I would say my the moment that really sticks out to me would be the amount of work and the amount of effort that it really takes to make a record, not a song, to make a record. Because you hear these people tell these stories. Man, I made the beat in 20 minutes. I wrote the song in 10 minutes. Like, you feel me? And I think that's an injustice to the music. Like, because yeah, it sounds cool, makes you seem like you just that nigga, right? Like you just out here just killing it. And sometimes songs do come that way. But I feel like when you really want a solid body of work, you have to put in the time, you have to put in the effort. And for me, something that sticks out for me is just waking up at like 7, 8 a.m., going straight into the studio, doing like a 12-hour session with whether it be B Cox or Tricky or whatever may have you. Although Tricky like shorter sessions, but I think maybe he got tired of those long sessions. But like B Cox, being in the studio with him for 12 hours. Then from there, we go hit the club because we need inspiration. You feel me? Then from there, we going back to the studio. We recording for another 3 hours. Then we're going to go back to the crib, maybe lay down for about 4 or 5 hours, and then we right back at it. But I mean, that's what it takes. And it's like, you know that, but did you experience it? And for me, that was my first time really, truly experiencing it to that level. And it stood out to me. And that's something that I brought with me just for everything that I do now. Like, you have to put in the time, you have to put in the work. I remember that I was sitting there with B Cox and he made me sing the same line for like 2 or 3 hours just because I was getting it wrong over and over again. And this isn't a 3-minute and 30-second song. Is anybody really going to pay attention to that little 2 or 3 second blurb? At the end of the day, yes, nigga, they are. Because maybe that's the sound. Maybe that is what made the song. You don't know. So you got to get it all right. Like, you feel me? And I think that paying attention to those very small details is what changes the song from a song to a record. And that is something that just really impacted me in my journey of making this album Eden. I think it's a combination of everything. For one, you definitely got to have somebody that knows what they're doing, because it really doesn't matter what you sing or what you write. If they can't bring that record to life with a good mix and a good master, I mean, you basically sitting on crap. Like, you feel, because nobody's going to see your vision. No one's going to hear your vision. So having the right people around you that know what they're doing in order to bring your vision to life is super important. But from an artist standpoint, I think that what's important is knowing yourself and knowing how vulnerable you're willing to be, or whether or not you just feeling yourself that day. Like, you have to know the right time to record a record. Like, you feel me? Because if you just left the club, are you really going to sing a heartfelt R&B record in the studio? That doesn't make sense. Like, you gotta sing what you feel in that moment, because that song that you recorded yesterday sounded that way yesterday. But what would it sound like a week from now? What would it sound like 2 weeks from now? That's why I'm a big fan of, if I'm going to go in and I'm going to record a record, I got to record the whole thing. I can't record half of it today and then the other half 3 days later and all that, because I can hear the difference. I can hear what the first verse sounded like versus what the last verse sounded like. Or I might have to get into the pocket. So I might record the first verse and then turn around and record the whole song and then go back and then re-record the first verse because it doesn't fit the vibe of the whole record, especially if they're lead vocals. So I feel like that comes with experience, but it also comes with knowing yourself and knowing your sound and being able to bring out the best of that. And then having people around you that know your sound, because otherwise, if you got a whole bunch of yes men around you that are just excited because you on the record, everything you say is hot. They ain't even going to tell you like, oh man, you got to rework that. Or man, you can sing that with more passion or whatever may have you. So it's about having the right people around you. So who you bring into the room, because that's all the studio is a room. But who is in the room is going to make the biggest difference of whether or not you get some fire, some heat, that people want to listen to, or whether or not it's just another record that's just getting skipped on the radio or on Spotify. Definitely 2020 was supposed to be like, it's like a double entendre. 2020 the year, but 2020 being the year of clarity because 2020 vision, like, you feel me? So people really did think like 2020 was their year, but at the end of the day, it depends on how you look at it, because low key 2020 was my year, because 2020 gave me a reality check. And sometimes you need a reality check in order to realize where you want to go and what fugazi nonsense you was doing that was preventing you from getting to that ultimate prize. So I think if anybody looks at it that way, they're going to realize that 2020 probably was the best year of their life. Maybe they don't think it right now, but they're going to realize that. As far as Eden went, for me, it was a story, like, this is a dope story because it's the story of the grasshopper and the ant, and like putting in that work and storing your grain or whatever for those rainy days. And that's basically what I did. I started recording that in 2018. So I was already ahead of the game. By the time I was done recording that album, it was 2019, maybe mid 2019 or somewhere around that spectrum. So the album was done. All we were trying to do was just get the mixing and the mastering done, and then from there we were going to drop it. So Eden was supposed to come out last year, and I should say 2019, since it's already 2021, right? So it was supposed to come out in 2019, but because you know how that goes when you're working with a lot of producers and all that, you got to get the paperwork straight and all that. So it was delaying it. So that's why I dropped the EP No Days Off. So I dropped that because it was like, okay, well, I can't drop my debut US album. I gotta still give my fans some heat. So we started working on that. Perfect timing though, because then when the quarantine hit, I was already sitting on like 1 million records. So now it's like, this is the perfect time to drop this project. So we started rolling out with the singles. So Spoil You, Go Hard, etc. Started giving people a taste of what the actual album sounds like. And now we're in a really good position because it's 2021. We're getting ready to drop the full body of work. We've done a lot of marketing and a lot of promotions around it, and it just feels right. And even with the experience with the producers and all the rest of that stuff, it just helped me to grow as an artist and just helped me just to think outside of the box and just become better and better and better. So when this quarantine did hit, I wasn't sitting there like a dun thinking inside of my head, like, what am I going to do? I was in the big studios. I saw the gear that they were using. I saw the plugins that they were using. I saw all that. So all I had to do was just turn around and just build my studio out and build it to the next level. So that way I didn't have to go in to the big studios to get that big studio sound. I could do it at the crib.